BeinCrypto Intelligence's latest report has just gone live. It's called The Exodus Economy, and it's from our Latin BeinCrypto expert consult. Now we'll discuss this, 24/7 digital dollars, stablecoin rails, micro-capital flight out of the Latin American region, and more with Keith van der Leist, the US General Manager at BVNK. Please stick around for this podcast. Okay, and I'm Brian McGleenan, Global Head of News at BeinCrypto, and today I'm joined by Keith van der Leist from BVNK to unpack stablecoins, 24/7 enterprise flows, and changing consumer habits, and how they're reshaping different regions in the globe. Keith, it's great to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brian. I'm excited to be here and talk about the recent growth we've seen in our embedded wallets.
But that's great. Now, Keith, look, stablecoins, I suppose, are one of the big innovations, kind of ironically, to emerge from the cryptocurrency space ever since blockchains started, becoming a thing after Satoshi's white paper all those years ago. Now, Keith, we're seeing that, I think it was BVNK's data was saying that there's a 22% growth in Latin America to US remittances. And that actually mirrors our own data. We recently launched our report, the BeinCrypto LATAM report, which is called The Exodus Economy. Now, what I'd like to ask you is, which specific corridors are you seeing in Latin America that are actually driving this? And is it still dominated by US to Mexico, US back to Mexico, Mexico to US, vice versa? Or are Colombia, Argentina, and Brazil, are they starting to pick up and move faster? And actually building on top of that, is this money replacing legacy bank wires, or is it just net volume that was previously too small or too slow to send? So what is the scale of this?
Yeah, so we've seen a massive year-on-year growth in LATAM pay-in volume from 59 million to 1.38 billion this year. This has been driven primarily by corridors outside the U.S. to Mexico corridor, which, as we all know, like that is by far the largest corridor. We're seeing tremendous growth in Colombia, Argentina, and Brazil. And it's really about a complementary payment rail to the traditional wire-based remittance and or B2B flows that we're seeing. So this is complementary to the existing flows.
Yeah, so complementary. Also, I think I was looking at some of the BVNK reports and data. Now, a lot of these transactions, a significant amount of this volume is happening outside of normal banking hours. So would this tell us that who's doing this? Is it small to medium enterprises? Or is it businesses moving money at the weekends that you can't do when the banks are shut? They're using stablecoin rails more efficiently for payments. And how are your enterprise clients actually using this always on dollar layer, which it really is? Is it that stablecoins are avoiding the Friday afternoon cutoffs, or are platforms running these instant 24/7 payouts? Is that the way of the future, and everyone's just sort of jumping on this bandwagon?
Globally, we've seen about 33%, 31% actually of our volume operate out of traditional banking hours, depending on where in the world you are, what those hours are. So that's 2.65 billion to 8.8 billion. So 2.6 billion is out of hours. And really it is a mix of consumers, but then also businesses, right? So the economy is becoming more and more 24/7. While traditionally businesses, treasurers, they're still don't have massive needs to move money out of hours. Depending on the type of business and depending on the global nature of their business, what might be normal hours in Asia is actually out of hours in Latin America. So as the economy becomes more global and it becomes more 24/7, we're seeing more B2B needs to move money 24/7, which is one of the benefits of stablecoin based payments. We're also seeing a lot of gig economy workers who they've got side gigs on the weekends. So payouts to them, and this is a way that they can get paid 24/7 on the weekend. So it is, we talk about the benefits of stablecoins being 24/7 and instant and global. This is a perfect example of where this as a payment rail is competing with some of the legacy payment infrastructure.
That's interesting because our actual sort of the recent Latin report, the Exodus economy that we just did at BeinCrypto Intelligence, looked at this, looked at it was actually everyday small to medium sized businesses, contractor money, not actual corporate treasuries where a lot of this volume was taking place. Now, if we actually pull back globally, do you think is it like importers, contractor payroll, or remittances operators that are using these back end rails? And of all of these different sectors that could be using this, you mentioned like gig economy workers, right the way through to maybe small to medium sized businesses. Which one is scaling the fastest globally?
I think early on it's been the gig economy and the consumer remittances. We've got some fintech innovators like Meow and TransferMate deploying digital dollar rails to solve this challenge of traditional banking hours. We're seeing payout platforms, HR platforms like On Top, starting to use this. But then we're also seeing with our partnership in CorePay the
Mhm.
growth of more mid-sized to small businesses starting to use stablecoins as a 24/7 payment rail. So we are seeing a shift from consumers and smaller dollar transactions to the larger dollar transactions for stablecoin based payments.
Okay, so much larger when it comes to like so the corporations are moving in there as well. And I suppose if you could give us the headline, why stablecoins? Uh, is it because transactions happen much faster? Can you give us some sort of scale as to the efficiencies that about using stablecoins as opposed to using legacy systems?
Yeah, obviously we talk about 24/7, and if you look at kind of the global supply of stable coins relative to their volume, and then you compare that to fiat, global GDP, and M1 money supply, you can compare those two ratios and talk about the velocity of money. And the velocity of on-chain dollars is, depending on exact metrics, but around 100 times faster. So it goes to the point that it is instant. It can move 24/7. So you don't need as large of a supply of stablecoins to support the same amount of volume. So you have a faster turnover of those same stablecoins. And what we're seeing, depending on the client, they're leveraging our auto conversion capabilities. So they're using the 24/7 and then converting into fiat locally. Typically, that's US dollars on the US side or euros on the European side.
Keith, just sort of moving on, let's look globally because our report did find that there are a lot of businesses in the Latin America region and they're holding their working capital in digital dollars offshore rather than converting it back into the local currencies. Now, do you think that this is a bigger issue globally when it comes to like, stable coins in a way has been a big boost to the dollar? Do you think stablecoins are just basically having a lot more adoption of dollar denominated trade globally?
I mean, I'm excited to see other currencies on chain. We do support the euro on chain, the euro stable coin, but yes, predominantly right now it's dollar backed stable coins. I'm excited to see other currencies go on chain. We do support the euro stable coin and anticipate supporting other currencies on chain, but right now it's predominantly US backed stablecoins that our volume is supporting. So what that really provides is access to US banking and access to the US dollar in economies where traditionally it's been very hard to get access to the US financial system. Places in the global south where our end users would prefer to hold dollars, they can do that through stable coins. So this provides them, whether that's a stable store of value in stable coins or just a security that they have knowing that their funds are held in dollars. That's why we think there's a lot more holding of stablecoins in the global south. That is opposed to, the traditional crypto trading use case where they're moving in and out of stablecoins to hedge against their volatile Bitcoin trading. So there's a shift in behavior of what stablecoins are being used for.
So like different motivations for using stablecoins. Now, obviously, you were talking about holding stablecoins. That brings us on to the subject of wallets. Now, BVNK saw a massive 263 times surge in embedded digital dollar wallet volume. So, with a lot of fintechs now making up 75% of your platform, and they're using the BVNK digital dollar wallet. Now, when fintechs build this into their platforms, are end users consciously choosing a stablecoin wallet, or has this tech simply become invisible and back end, and it's just, they think they're just using standard dollars? Like, what's the kind of I suppose, literacy when people are using these systems, especially people using fintechs?
The really innovative fintechs are doing exactly that. They're representing dollar balances, and the end user doesn't really care whether that's in stable coins or in dollars. So they're looking at a multi-currency wallet and they're holding dollars. They're getting the benefit of stable coins, which we've talked about, but then they're also getting the benefit of dollars. So we're seeing the shift from, again, crypto natives, from DeFi platforms to more traditional fintechs that are using stable coins, making it invisible to the end user so that they can have dollars, they can hold dollars, again, anywhere those wallets.
Now, Keith, lastly, quite exciting is that Mastercard acquired BVNK. Now, how significant is that in terms of for your own business operations, but also just for stablecoins in general?
Yeah, we're really excited about the acquisition. I'm actually sitting here in the Mastercard offices in New York. And, one of the things that needs to happen in our industry is, as we mature, we need to bring in a lot more trust. And the card network, specifically Mastercard, has such trust built into its brand that as we get broader adoption of stablecoins and digital assets and start to provide services to end users who aren't crypto natives, they expect what MasterCard delivers. They expect trust. They expect their payment to be successful. They expect, if a payment fails, that they can call someone up. These are all things that have been part of MasterCard for a very long time. So as we bring on-chain payments to the real world economy, we're excited to do that with MasterCard. We've got a lot of plans, a lot of synergies to execute with the integration of BVNK into MasterCard. We're just getting started, and it's going to be a great, great future with the combination of BVNK and MasterCard.
Thank you, Keith van der Leest from BVNK, for coming on BeinCrypto's Expert Console podcast. Keith, it was great to have you.
Thanks again, Brian.